I'm going to be honest, everybody. I've been in this for a minute. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I appreciate you, Dean, for coming on and explaining that.
The facts, dates, and events presented in this video are from the member's best recollection and may not be fully accurate. This video is intended for entertainment purposes only. Always consult with your local union about your rights and duties at your workplace. The opinions shared on this video are our own and do not necessarily represent my employer's positions, strategies, or opinions. All views shared are protected under the National Labor Relations Act.
What is going on, everybody? So today I have Dean Doss out of Local 63 in California, and he is kind of the Teamster Union historian. He knows everything about every little piece of the puzzle that we need answers to. So, Dean, I appreciate you coming on. And, you know, the contract, a lot of people will sit here and say, and I kind of agree with them, it's a little overly complex. There's just, you got national agreements, supplemental agreements, riders. And so this video is trying to unpack why that is and what some of these pieces of the puzzle mean. So, Dean, I'm going to ask you first, why is this contract so needlessly complicated?
It gets everybody a job. No, it's because at one time there was no national agreement across the country. And as UPS expanded through the different states and stuff, they negotiated locally. And when they negotiated locally, they didn't have as much unity and as much power to negotiate. And so when the concept of the national agreement came along, which was based upon the concept that they used for the national freight agreement in the 60s, that was the only way they could convince the locals that got in on the national contract was, we will still let you negotiate some separate language. And the name they called it was supplemental, or they called it a rider. So the steps are national agreement, supplemental, rider, and then there's some addendums on the riders.
So when we're talking about riders, you know, I actually had someone call me last week because the last episode we talked about, we talked about riders, but he asked me, what are riders? Because a lot of locals don't even have riders. So right. What are riders anyways?
Riders are the section that is going to be the smallest area covered in that contract that you have. The national agreement covers the whole national. The supplemental that I'm under is Western Region Supplemental. You're under the Southern Region Supplement. And then underneath that is the Southwest Rider for me, which covers Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's all it covers. Whereas the Western Region Supplement covers all of the 13 states out here on the West.
For everybody who is watching this, can you show them your contract book just to show the people at home how crazy it gets in some locals?
I'll show the new one so it has the colors. So you can see on here it says National Master, then Western Region, and then Southwest Package. And there's also the Southwest Sort Rider. So there's 4 little different sections in different colors. The white section is the national part of it. The yellow is the Western, and then the blue is the Southwest Rider, which for me as a feeder driver and for most of my career before that being a package driver, I was under the Southwest Package Rider, whereas the Southwest Sort Rider covers the part-timers and stuff working inside the hub.
So you know a lot of the history behind the contract, correct? And so if you kind of have to give a 5-minute elevator pitch of the contract, where did it all begin and how did we end up where we are today?
1916, Jim Casey asked the Teamsters out here on the West Coast to represent his boys, as he called them. And then through the years, as UPS expanded, they negotiated with different locals in different areas. And just 1979, they came up with the idea of the National Master, but it just grew from there. It wasn't a standard 5-year contract right away. A lot of the contracts were 3 years, and then 1993, Ron Carey negotiated a 4-year contract, and then in 1997, he negotiated a 5-year contract. And that's become almost the standard since then.
I'm going to be honest, everybody. I've been in this for a minute. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I appreciate you, Dean, for coming on and explaining that. So, Dean, you know, we always hear people talk about past practice. What exactly is that?
Past practice is a term used for how to explain something, and it's used when the contract is silent, if there's no language on how to do that. You know, who gets to get assigned the new package car? Is it just by whose package car broke down the last, or is it by the senior driver in that area that can use it? That's not going to be addressed in the contract, but it's going to be addressed by past practice. So past practice is used when the contract is silent. The biggest thing with that is you can't know when the contract is silent if you don't know your contract. You need to read your contract. You need to read other contracts. I read a lot of the different supplementals and riders across the country to see what interesting language they have there, to see if they have better language than I have, and if we can incorporate some of that into our language. Not a lot of that happening, but hopefully.
So, Dean, I got to ask you, you know, I see it from time to time because the contract is so complex, so crazy, you know, people pitch to have one contract. Is this possible to have just a national contract without all the supplements and riders and make it more simplistic?
It's possible. It would take a lot of work. It would take a lot of people accepting something that, you know, might be not as good as what they have language wise, but there's a lot that goes into why we don't have that. You got pay rates are a little bit different across the country, not much, not a lot, but also the insurance, how the insurance is covered, and the pensions, how the pensions are covered is the big stumbling block to that happening. Other big thing is benefits, your paid time off. Not everybody has the same amount of paid time off or gets paid the same across the country. Some places get paid an hourly rate for their week of vacation. Some places, like my area, we get paid 1/52nd of what we made during our calendar vacation year.
So, Dean, what are feeder work rules?
Feeder work rules are contract language that is negotiated within the feeder department that it affects. So it may not necessarily get printed in book form like the contracts do. Some locals do. Some locals put out their feeder work rules in small booklet form. But it pertains to how to handle the varying different jobs in feeder. Some feeder departments like mine have 24/7 operation going on, 24/7, 365 days a week. We got people starting. Some places don't have that. They all start at the same time. They have 5 drivers that start at the same time at night. So the feeder work rules cover how do we assign the work, and that so that it's the most fair, which is the number one thing in unions is seniority.
And I was also going to kind of ask you a question about MOUs and letter of understanding. What exactly is that?
Letters of understanding or memorandums of understanding are just agreements that they came to on how to handle a situation. And it's not necessarily written into an article, you know, in the contract, but it is contractual language. And it might be something like what's gone on with the MRAs the last 3 years. You know, they might have come to a understanding of how to handle something like that. So it might eventually be an article in the contract, but right now they're not.
So, Dean, you know, when I hear about Local 705 and 710, they're not a part of the national agreement. Why is that?
In 1979, when they got together and decided to have the national agreement, the national master agreement, there was 3 locals that did not want to participate. And one of them held out for quite a while, but when that the leader of that local became the national president in 1991, Ron Carey, then 804 became part of the national master agreement also. But yes, Local 705 has their own contract, just their contract. I do not have a copy of 710's to show you, but yes, they have their own language. Their language parallels the national agreement most of the times, but yes, 705 and 710 are still not part of the national master agreement.
All right, so Dean, before we close it out, I want you to flex to the audience all your contract books.
So, well, we just saw the one 705. That's not mine, but so the 2002 contract. Oh, my really torn up one here. My 2007, realistically 2008 contract, the 2013 contract, and then they went back to the same color for the 2018 contract. So I'm thinking the 2023 contract's going to be blue since the 2013 one was blue.
So Dean, I appreciate you coming onto the channel. You know, we do shout outs. Who do you want to shout out tonight?
You know, I got a good one. Shout out to Mark Timlin, retired package driver out of local 177, somewhere in New Jersey. I don't know what city he actually drove package in. 10 years ago, when he was frustrated with the contract going on in 2013, he started a page called the Vote No page. It's turned into now Vote in the No page. We encourage everybody to learn about their contract and make an informed decision when they're voting on their contract. Mark and I may not agree on everything, but he agrees on letting the page keep running and keep going.
I want to give a shout out to Teddy on the Upsurge podcast. Check out his new show. He had me on it, and I thought it turned out really well. He made me sound intelligent, so I appreciate that, Teddy. Also, shout out to 623, Richard Hooker and Norman. They printed out like flyers for my channel and started handing them out to the members. That is so awesome. I am so yeah. I'm so flattered he did that. That was so cool for him to do, and they're doing a great job at 623. So shout out to 623 Lives Matter and Richard Hooker and everybody a part of that team. With that being said, have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Appreciate you.